In the anime Jujutsu Kaisen, the character Satoru Gojo is often touted as the strongest. He's equipped with abilities that makes an entire league of power unto his own. However, it's a signature move that always leaves me in wonder. A domain expansion. An attack that targets any foe within his range and subjects them to the vastness of infinity that could stun the strongest of foes with a non-stop onslaught of information that is an endless sea, but could leave the average person permanently disfigured from taking on far more than they can ever handle naturally. And that's the equivalent of what this move does to me.
Okay, what now?
You're fucked. Growing up, I've loved chess. Not to brag or anything, but I was the kid that could beat every one of my family members in it, including my big brother that taught me how to do it in the first place. I joined the chess club in middle school, learning more of the basics and new techniques to demolish my cousins, and even catch my uncle off guard that played all his life. I even went to tournaments, playing in regional championships with my chess club team, though we never really went further than that. Now, I will brag, but apparently if you Googled my name, the first result would actually be of me in a chess tournament. Something my father would often bring up every time I saw him. Early life was good. I thought I was a chess genius, or at the very least, better than most people of my craft. Sure, I was a solid B student, but my family and peers thought I was smart, and that was enough to make me feel that way. But dear God, I was a fraud. Something most people often forget about when they're engrossed in a hobby is that you're always going to be the most knowledgeable person in the room of that said hobby. To friends and family, you're likely a czar to them, being able to correct them on any surface level knowledge that you have in the subject, or introduce new ideas of their understanding of the topic. This gives you double the props if it's in a subject that some people are slightly interested in but tend not to follow through on, like social games or art. And through one way or another, you are well versed in the subject matter, especially compared to everyone else. And it's easy to go from knowing enough to thinking that you know most. Not only was I one of the weakest links in the chess club that I was in, but I was consistently going 1-5 in my matches, losing at least 80% of my games. I think the best I've ever done in a tournament was go 2.5 out of 5, which is barely enough to give me a participation trophy. Something that boosted my ego far too much back then. I was from a relatively small town as well, so having my name on Google, which wasn't even that common of a name to begin with, wasn't really that big of a stretch to happen. It wasn't until much later in college when I realized just how outclassed I was. The same 4-move checkmate that was already memed on back then wasn't enough to get me to make other players flinch. And the people that I were playing actually did play as a child and practiced their entire life from there, playing super frequently as I had stopped and rested on my laurels thinking I was good enough for anything. Getting demolished in person and getting low ranks in the online matches that I was doing was enough to break me. And when I say break me, I still to this day have no confidence in being able to do anything at a proficient level. As a good example, I feel like I could have come a lot further in this YouTube business if I just had a smidget more confident and tried new things. It's been 14 years of having it and I've yet to feel as good about a single one of my videos. So I feel exceptionally awkward when I show them to friends or especially family. Some say to me that they're not that bad, but I can look back as little as 3 months ago and cringe super hard at little mistakes that I've made that are just stupid. It's a lesson I've taken to heart because all around me, there often tends to be another person in the room that thinks they're the best at something, only to get their shit kicked in by an actual champion. It's okay to not know everything about a subject, but it's more important to know that, in reality, you probably don't know anything. The following chart is the Dunning-Kruger chart, an effect that plagues even the best of us, especially me, which is why I often look at this to get my ego in check. While not proven scientifically true, the correlation of how much a person thinks they know about a subject often tangentially responds to how much they actually know. So let's start here, at the first phase. At the start of the chart, the beginning of a subject that every bit of information starts out fresh. There's very little complexity to a subject that you haven't really taken nuance into yet. There's so much you can do to understand it clear. So let's take voice acting as an example, since I could take a little more nuance past what a beginner would know here. At the beginning, voice acting does seem quite simple. All you have to do is give a silly voice and it's probably enough to give you a good enough performance. The more you look into it, however, it appears to be a lot more nuanced, like vocal inflection/projection, recognizing and utilizing your range, being able to give believable performances, creating atmosphere and story with your voice, leading your voice, making it easier to follow, or being able to enunciate the words that you're saying properly enough to give an emotional performance. And some people look at that and go, oh, I can do that easily, bringing them to the peak of Mount Ignorance. And others are like, oh, I think I might actually have to learn something with this, dragging them down to the Valley of Despair, the true Elo hell of knowledge. Now, this isn't to say that thinking that you can do something that you haven't done before makes you into an idiot or something. Far from it. Tangentially, some talents lend themselves to other talents, like being able to sing or write gives you a higher chance of being a good actor, or being good at baseball makes you good at driving. I made that up. But it's just something to say that no one knows everything, and there's a danger of believing that learning or simply practicality is enough to fill in those gaps. Learning more is only a stepping stool towards embedding yourself in a topic, and doing it is only to apply what you have learned so far. So further knowledge and practical application is always the best way to climb yourself out of that hole. Seriously, it's okay to consider yourself average in a topic that you're tangentially interested in, and see yourself as learning more to get into a topic. Because despite the many subjects I'm interested in, it's actually more terrifying to get to know more about a subject than it is to have comfort in what you already know information-wise. But unfortunately, the Dunning-Kruger chart sees me blight. It knows that I don't know nearly enough to enjoy something. It knows that I don't know. And no matter how much I try to learn about a thing, it'll never amount to knowing a thing. Which brings the hammer back around to me. The more I know, the less I know. And I get the feeling that knowledge is designed that way as a base. Let's do a little experiment. Take something you know very, very well. Something you know more than most anyone else. Something you know so well that you will never be confused about it. Like, let's say the back of your hand, which I don't know why it's a saying because I don't look at my hands like that. But anyway, take a look at them. Check out the intricate details upon them. The way your fingers may or may not be perfectly curved. The way you might have some scars on them from a long time ago. The shape of your fingernails, the small wrinkles lining your knuckles, and the veins that may or may not be able to be seen from under your skin. Take a look at every micro wrinkle that sections your hands into thousands of tiny triangles. Pull out a microscope. Take a look again and see the caverns of those tiny cracks in your hand, the ridges that they have created, and the ecosystem of bacteria that has grown in the short hours since you have washed your hands last. Just a bit closer, you can see the cells that make up your skin, the melanin that gives you your signature hue, the sweat glands, the lipid layer that prevents water from permeating you, the tiny cells and the little insides shifting around nutrients to get in and out, protein packets, your DNA, the atoms that align your body, and the empty space in between. You don't know anything, just a facsimile. The perception your eyes inaccurately produce, flawed with millions of years of evolution crafting a device that helps us find food and avoid predators, followed by a brain that is merely an infant in the vast technological expanse in the world that we've created in just a mere few centuries. And you don't know shit about chess. There's a concept in physics when it comes to the speed limit of the universe. The speed of light. Energy times mass to the speed of light squared. So in order for something to move faster than the fastest photon, it needs to break down and become energy and massless. More or less. Picture an object moving as fast as it wants between these bounds, speeding along to reach 99% the speed of light so long as it has a method to reach that speed. But if it wants to move any faster, something quite interesting happens. As the mass travels, in order for it to move any faster, it must consume more and more energy. What was once 99% the speed of light becomes 99.1 the speed of light, consuming more energy than it did before, though the speed consumed was not proportionate. Going from 0.1 to even 90% the speed of light consumed thousands of times less energy than it took for that extra 0.1 to make it to 99.1. But even if this mass found a way to generate billions of times more than its previous rate, it would simply only move up more slowly, ticking away at a percentage of the speed towards the speed of light, as the goal of that lofty 100% becomes more and more out of reach, even if it seemed so reachable before. It's made it to 99.99999%, that's 5 nines. Our mythical device has reached theoretical speeds that exceeds the amount of energy required to power the entire Earth for a year. Adding just 2 more nines at the end of that decimal point moves it all the way to nearly a decade. And the faster you move, the more impossible infinity is. And I believe that knowledge is another one of those impossible barriers. The more you acquire knowledge, the further away you are from this false idea of knowing everything there is to be known. The more it breaks down, the closer you get. You are cursed, in a way, with this knowledge. Scientists and philosophers ponder the nature of the universe and are met with more and more questions as they get closer to a breakthrough of the universe. Always met with one more thing that makes it seem unknowable. An insurmountable task to just know as much as possible reveals that there is no end. So, I want you to take something you know well again. Not your hand this time. Something you really know. Something that you could produce an entire hour-long seminar on with little to no prep time. A book you love. A hobby you're hyper-fixated on. A video game you play frequently. Now, take the average person that would just be aware of this thing. How much about it do you think that they know? How much information is needed to convey even the most simplest of concepts to them? What you probably wouldn't expect is that the things that you regard as the most basic of info wouldn't be something that they would even be aware of. Things you think are just common knowledge in your field is foreign to passive hobbyists. That curse I mentioned goes both ways. You are cursed with knowledge that some people would never understand. Never even understand its complexity. Perhaps you're the friend that makes art and your group considers you one of the best in the world. All the while you know that concepts and theories that you should apply just aren't nearly as good as you want them to be. Could you be the guy that destroys at local games like chess or CSGO, but you know that there are people out there with techniques that are impossible to execute? Are you so good at something that you don't even know it because the curse of knowledge is so foreboding that it locks you into perpetual frustrations that infinity is so out of reach that others haven't even realized it yet? Well, congratulations! You made it out of the Valley of Despair and into the Hills of Enlightenment! Because everything you learn from here on out isn't just knowledge. It's your creed. It's who you are now. You are chess. Actually, no, chess still terrifies me. I've learned so much more than when I was a kid about this game. And while I am in no respect as good at the game as I thought I was, especially compared to those that study the tactics daily, I think I'm comfortable with my current place. I'm not ever going to learn everything about this game. Because not only am I not into it as I used to be when I was a kid, but it's also not something I think I can reach the peaks of heights with. I don't think I can expend that energy to reach the next level. And I think I'm okay with that. The more I get into things, the easier it is to realize just how much of my energy it takes to reach the next step. Especially things I'm learning for the first time. I've been learning how to draw lately. And though I'm incredibly bad at it starting out, it actually does feel kind of rewarding reaching those milestones to even get slightly better at it. It's pretty frustrating to see how difficult it is, because there's a lot of things that just can't be taught with a book. The only way I can get better at it is actually trying rather than gawking at those that have a head start. But I especially do enjoy it when a decision I make ends up being something I'm rather proud of, even if most of it's not really worth showing anyone. Knowledge is terrifying, but wielding it and knowing how to use it more efficiently is the best we can actually hope for in a world where we can't know everything. I didn't make this video to say that you're stupid for thinking you know something, or for not knowing it. I actually made it to let you know that you're exactly where you need to be. It's okay to move forward. It's okay to not know everything. And it's okay to have a good day, buddy. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.